Hey folks, welcome back to another video. So NAIC was last weekend and I am super excited to show off my deck that got me to day 2. I say my deck. Myself and a buddy actually cooked this one up and he ran the same 60 to the tournament, so I can't take full credit for it. But we cooked this Joltik Box list together. It got me to day 2. Finished day 2 373rd place out of 3,800 masters. So feeling pretty solid on it. Had a great tournament run. So let's hop into the 60. So as far as Joltik Box goes, this is not like a groundbreaking, crazy, off meta list. It's pretty standard, pretty default. I know I've seen a lot of stuff in Joltik Box lately, like running petrol and as a way to find stadiums, so you can run like Watchtower and things like that. We did not run any stadiums in our list. I was not expecting to see Pokemon League headquarters at the tournament, and that expectation was correct. I did not run into a single one all day. And then the only other stadiums that we're really worried about, Jamming Tower, that came up a few times, but it's not like enough to really ruin your day. What did ruin my day though was the Team Rocket's Watchtower. Actually stopped me from closing out a game with Ursaluna. So that was the only time out of, how many rounds did I play? Shoot, 13 rounds of Pokemon. I ran into 13 rounds times 3 for the amount of games. I ran into one game where a Team Rocket's Watchtower shut me out of closing the game with an Ursaluna. So as far as stadiums are concerned, I am still not too stressed about having a stadium bump. However, Gravity Mountain is still an excellent choice in this deck if that's what you want to run. But we went super simple with it. We just have our 4/4/4 supporter line, Arvin, Crispin, Boss, and 4 Pokegears to help us find those cards. Cut the Iono. While I can agree that hand disruption can be very important, I didn't really miss it too much in this list. The Iono's an okay inclusion. I think we're fine without it, honestly. And then the big kind of tech card that we had in the deck was the Genesect. I think that shutting down A-Specs right now is still pretty impactful. A little less so now that dragapults are kind of working away from Unfair Stamp. We saw a lot more Neo upper energy builds at NAIC. So if Dragapult continues to trend in that direction, and we're not as worried about Unfair Stamp, you could look at getting rid of the Genesect, but it is still really strong into our Raging Bolt matchup to stop that early game Prime Catcher. And it has value into Gardevoir and Grimsnarl from preventing them to get into Secret Box, which is not going to like ruin their game, but it is going to slow them down and can help get some more value out of Iron Hands if they're not able to have that explosive turnaround Secret Box play. They'll have a couple more juicy Iron Hands morsels to pick off in the mid game. So it can actually be pretty powerful into those matchups. However, Genesect is a card that you could look to cut if you want to tech for something else that you're seeing quite a bit more often. As far as other cards, we'll take a look at the tools. We had 2 Bravery Charms, which felt really strong. Being able to slap those onto like an Iron Hands or even a Joltik into Grimsnarl so that we can protect our Joltik, so that we can evolve it into a Galvantula later on in that game. Felt really, really good. Rescue Board is a must to help get your Joltik into the active on your first turn. Rescue Board is just fantastic for that. And then the Defiance Band, I would honestly advocate for cutting this card out of the deck. The reason it was included is for the Raging Bolt matchup. And the idea is that Raging Bolt against Joltik Box is going to look to gust up one of the attackers that you set up. So the way the matchup typically goes is the Raging Bolt player will go first. They'll get all of their Hoot Hoots ready to evolve. We'll go second. We'll do Jolting Charge. We're never really going to take first away from them because that just hurts us way more than it hurts them. So that's pretty much how every matchup is going to go. They're going to go first. They're going to get their Hoot Hoots. We're going to go second. We're going to get Jolting Charge. And then they're going to go again after that. And they're going to boss up whatever, or Prime Catcher up, like our Iron Hands or our Pikachu, whatever they're more concerned with at the time, and then they'll likely take it out with Slitherwing, leaving a 1 prizer in the active, taking 2 prizes away from us. So at that point, the Defiance Band is alive. We can slap it onto Joltik, evolve into Galvantula, and then if we have a Grass and a Lightning Energy on Galvantula, we're hitting for 180 damage into a Pokemon that has an ability, like a Teal Mask Ogerpon or a Pheasantipity. And then with the Defiance Band, we're going up to 210 damage to get a 1-shot onto one of their support Pokemon, and leaving our own 1 prizer in the active, which if they spent Gust on the turn before, they're going to have a hard time finding that Gust again on the next turn. So in theory, it is really strong into the Raging Bolt matchup. In practice, that is a lot of pieces that you need on your second turn of the game in order to get that play off, because you need an Ultra Ball to get the Galvantula. You need an Arven to get the Defiance Band. You need to be able to get an Energy onto your Galvantula, because you might have been able to put Grass on the first turn, and then hopefully you have Lightning in hand, or you could have, I guess, Jolting charged a Lightning onto the Joltik. But that's kind of then, I don't know. That makes Joltik a threat, which I guess is kind of a good mind game to get into. But anyway, that's the third piece you need. Is you need 2 energy on the Joltik Galvantula, and then you need a way to Gust as well. So you need your Prime Catcher. So it is just 4 pieces that you need to get this play off. And even then, it's still just kind of like, it's a good play. It's not like, oh, ha ha ha, you're over. You're cooked now, buddy. It's just like, I'm kind of clawing my way back in. So the value or the consistency just didn't feel quite there. So I think going forward, I would probably cut the Defiance Band in favor of like a Valutality Band to help our Gardevoir matchup, or a Future Booster if for whatever reason you're just running into a lot of matchups where your Iron Hands needs to hit for 140. Say there's like 3 guys at your locals that are all just adamant about making the Mewtwo deck work, or the Team Rocket's Mewtwo work, where they have the Spite Ops that have like 130 health or whatever. Then I could see throwing like a Future Booster back in instead. But the Defiance Band is just kind of okay. It didn't really feel like a super worthwhile inclusion into the deck. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. But everything else felt great. We went with Switch instead of Iron Leaves, which was honestly okay. I thought I would miss it into the Grimsnarl matchups. But really having like Galvantula, Pikachu, Iron Hands, that's plenty to deal with Grimsnarl. You don't really need the Iron Leaves. It's kind of just extra. Especially if they have like a Frostlass setup. Their Grimsnarl has 320 health. They take 10 damage going into your turn from Frostlass. You hit them with Topaz Bolt for 300, and then they take another 10 damage going back into their turn. So they get knocked out in between terms. So it's just like you don't need Iron Leaves. You're fine. You're chilling with just those guys. Let's see what else. I think that's about it. I mean, it's a super simple deck to pick up. I've seen a lot of questions on like Reddit and just kind of floating around, like, is Joltik Box still worth building? And I would answer yes. I think like time investment into like results is insanely good with this deck. So prior to NAIC, I was practicing Dragapult and Gardevoir, and then like a couple days before the tournament, I just kind of decided to switch to Joltik Box, and I ran like maybe 20 to 30 games on live. I had never played the deck in person before my first match at NAIC, and I was still able to make day 2 and do pretty well with the deck. So it's pretty easy to pick up and just start like ripping victories like right off the bat with. You don't need to feel like you're too far behind, because you'll be able to get to a pretty efficient level with this deck pretty quickly. And then budget wise, that's on you. You got to figure out your own budget. The cards aren't that expensive. And a lot of these are like staples that you should have anyways, like Latias, Mew, Pheasantipity, Ursaluna. you know, it's really these 6, the Iron Hands, Pikachu, Miraidon, that are kind of a bit more niche. But I mean, you should have 4 Arvins, you should have 4 Crispins, you should have 4 Boss. Like, all of these other cards are just like kind of staple cards that are going to go great into future decks that you build as well. So yeah, I'd give it 2 thumbs up. I would recommend it if you've been on the fence about trying out the old Joltik box, but run it on live first, see how you feel, see how you like the flow of the gameplay. And let me know. Ask any questions that you have about the deck. Let me know what cards you're running, and just your kind of general vibes on the deck in the comments down below. But that is enough yapping. My name is Jared, and I'll be your gameplay nurse today. Okay, so this will be the easiest question, or the easiest deck to answer this question with. Do I want to go first? No, never, not once. Do we ever want to go first with Joltik Box? We always want to go second. Always want to be getting Jolting Charge off as soon as possible. That's like our whole thing. There's not a single matchup that I can think of where going first is what you actually want to do. So, always second. Now, got an Iono's deck. Okie dokie. So now we got to think about sequencing our first turn, because that's kind of the where you're going to be spending the majority of your thinking power. Iono's Raging Bolt. Okie dokie. I don't think they run Slitherwing, so that's good. So we kind of want to think through, how do we want to take our prize cards, and what attackers do we need to accomplish that. So they've got a few low HP options for us here, namely in the Voltorb. So Iron Hands is going to be a good attacker, but then they've also got Raging Bolt, which is going to have a hard time dealing with Pikachu. So that's also going to be a good attacker for us. So we're just going to get Joltik and Hands. We've got our Pikachu in our deck already, so we're good to go there. And then the next puzzle you have to solve is, how do we get Joltik into the active with an energy attached? And thankfully we drew into our switch, which in this matchup we're okay to use it here. That's not too big of a deal. It can get kind of dicey in other matchups, but honestly I'm fine burning it with this one. So we've decided we're going to set up Pikachu and Hands as our primary attackers. Just get this here too, not a problem. And so now we'll just Jolting Charge and get some energies on them, kind of based on what we got going on in our hand. Take a second to check. So we got 4 grass, 3 lightning, 1 lightning in hand, 1 grass on Joltik. And got, so pretty much all our energy. Missing 1 lightning, it looks like. So not too bad. So in that case, do 1 grass on each, and then we'll do double lightning onto the Hands. And then next turn we can look to take a knockout on one of the low health Pokemon with our Iron Hands, and then they'll follow up with a Raging Bolt, and we'll follow up with a Pikachu. They'll probably follow up with another Raging Bolt, and then we can close out the game with a what do you call them, Ursaluna. So not too shabby. So once you do the sequencing of like your first turn, where you're deciding what attackers to use, how to get set up, all of those things, then the game's kind of on autopilot from there for the most part. I guess since they are using Raging Bolt, if we need to, we can pivot into Clefairy with a Crispin as well. But that's more of a backup plan than it is a primary attack plan, just because Pikachu is a bit more defensive than Lily's Clefairy. So since they don't run Slitherwing in this deck, going into the Pikachu against Raging Bolt's a better option. So we are going to prioritize that, but we'll just remember we have a Clefairy in our back pocket if we need it. Oh man, this deck, I wish the Iono's Raging Bolt was just a little bit stronger, because it is so cool to be able to draw back up to 6, get the lightning back in your hand. Like, you're pretty unshakable for the most part. Which is good for them, of course. Now hopefully they take a knockout here onto Joltik. Because we're going to need to draw some cards. where our hand's looking a little sad right now, which honestly is kind of okay with this deck too, because we're going to be taking 2 prize cards most likely. So like there was a lot of times at NAIC where I was just kind of sitting with like just no cards in hand, but I was fine with it because I knew I was just going to draw up through prizes. I was going to get knocked out and have Fez eventually. So like it can be kind of scary to be looking at like a 3-card hand. But for the most part, you don't need a lot of additional stuff. So you're just kind of chilling. So we'll just take our first 2 prizes with Ampy very much right here. Thank you very much. And see, now we got a boss for next turn. We need a Crispin though. Like Crispin would be super neat. So hopefully we'll get some kind of Pokegear Crispin off of Flip the Script here after they knock out Iron Hands. Or if they knock out like Pheasantipity, then we have boss's orders, so we can just boss up the Voltorb, take that with Iron Hands. Yeah. So that's not a huge concern. Which is kind of cool, because you can set up like multiple threats on your board and just be like, okay, like you can take my Pheasantipity, but I'm going to immediately be able to respond with Iron Hands again because you didn't deal with Iron Hands. So I'm going to be able to take 2 prize cards again next turn no matter what. So that's kind of like what feels really good about this deck, is you can create board states where you're just like, okay, you dealt with one of my threats. There's 2 more. they're ready to go. So it feels kind of good. The only time this deck really felt bad for me was when I just had like a bad first turn and I wasn't able to establish as many threats as I wanted to. Which didn't happen super often, but it did happen enough. Well, I did lose a couple games because of it, which is fine. You're not going to win 100% of your games. But I think it is part of what's keeping this deck pretty much solidly in B tier as far as rankings go. It's because you can have those just bad hands and there's almost nothing you can do about it. So if we had a Crispin here, we'd push Pikachu and then just Crispin Pikachu, knock out active. But since we have a boss instead, we'll push hands and we'll just boss up the Kilowatt Roll and pop off from there. Get the Pikachu 1 turn away. Let's go ahead and grab a Mew here. Just because we can, really. Oh, no, we can't. I'm lying. They already played their Ace Spec, so there's no point in getting that. We don't really need to switch. So I think I'll probably just burn this, honestly. Fine with it. We don't really need anything. Okay. And we are good to go. Let's just boss up a Kilowatt Roll. And let's amp again. It's always, I get that it's flying type, but it's weird to me that you're hitting for lightning weakness into a lightning Pokemon. Yeah, we're good. Thank you very much. Dos Moss, thank you. There's Mew. Okie dokie. I don't know how many... Sounds like a weird question to ask. How many Ionos does Iono's Belly Bolt run? Hopefully the answer is not enough to get Iono this turn. Ideally, we would have those draw Pokemon set up on our bench early. So like the Pheasantipity, which we had and they took care of. Or the Mew, which was prized, unfortunately. So you want to get those kind of down a little bit early. And you have the, I want to say luxury to do that in this deck because there are so many 2 prize liabilities just on your bench by default that it's like benching that Mew, benching that Fez. I mean, oh, that feels bad. They had to burst here. Benching that Mew, benching that Fez early before you need them is like not a big concern. So that's always kind of nice. Let's just see if we get it off this. Okay, we are spoiled for choice. How do we want to win the game? We'll just take the boss. Iron Hands, you've done it again. So we'll just amp 3 times, win the game. And sometimes Joltik Box be jolting like that, where you get to just use Ampy very much over and over and over, and then your game's done. Weehaw! Okay, so we started Iron Hands, which is not ideal, because now we need a way to get them out of the active, which we cut the Future Booster Energy Capsule in this version of the deck, so that becomes a little bit more difficult, because now we need Latias, but we have no Pokemon Search in this hand, because we also need to use our Pokemon Search for Miraidon. So that makes it a little tough, because we can't Arven for Nest Ball Rescue Board. And we also can't Arven for Switch. So we're going to have to kind of hope for a good top deck here. Well, the Artisan does actually kind of bail us out a bit, because at the very least, okay. Well, that doesn't really matter, because we could have gotten Joltik off of Artisan anyway. Okay. Let's see. Hey, we got him. Okay. So we're just going to have to Arven and pray that Latias is not prized. And Latias is prized. So, that's not great. That is not great. It's not in my hand, is it? No, didn't think so. Okay, so, you know, some games you be Prime Catcher in to get Joltik into the active. That's just all we can do here. I'm gonna grab another Artisan, or another Joltik off the Artisan. Okay, no I'm not. Oh, this is good though. We'll stop their secret box. Just rescue board you, I guess. I just want to thank you. All right. Here we go. Let's see. We have all of our lightning and grass and 2 psychic, 1 metal. So while these openings are not ideal, I did run into this a few times at NAIC where we just had a hot mess of a hand to start the day with, the game with. I did manage to win. I was so sad. I was up against Dragapult Dust Noir, and we go to game 3, and I prized both my Joltiks, and I was like, I could have won this. I could have won this, but I kept going. I had an Iron Hands in the active. I just crispined it, and then for the next 2 turns, I just manually attached to it, and then I was able to close out the game with like out using Jolting Charge at all, which was pretty crazy. Okay, so this is not actually looking too bad, thanks to the boss. Get this guy up here. And just amp. Yes, I'm sure there's... Oh, I guess I could have attached to Joltik there. That was silly. Okay. Ultra Ball's tough in this deck. Because there's not a lot of fat. So there's not a lot of cards that you're kind of just okay with getting rid of. But it's there if you need it. And sometimes you got to make some tough choices, and that's okay. But we put them behind another turn at least, and we should be able to, unless they get, but they don't run Bravery Charm. I was gonna say their best bet would be to just leave a Bravery Charmed monkey in the active, but I don't think they do it like that. You just threw both your... Okay, Night Stretcher, a Snow Runt. Big chillin'. That is kind of the one card I would like to try to fit into this deck, would be a Night Stretcher, because like in our previous game where we lost our Fez early, it would have been really nice to kind of get that Night Stretcher going, get our Fez back. Dude, they're gonna hate me after this one. All right, here we go. Thank you. Okay, we got the Arven at least. And we're not going to need that Defiant Spin, so we have something to cut with Ultra Ball if we need it. Nice of those bosses to show up when they did. What are they? Okay, that's fine. I'll give you Genesect. Not a big deal. Could have given Joltik too, but I kind of want to leave that energy on the Joltik for now. Yeah, okay. Right. Got the Frostlass, of course. Got the Arven. We are still stopping their... What do you call it? A spec. Yeah, you can't use that. You can look at it. You can hold it. You can think about how many cards you would get off of it, but you cannot play it. And that was kind of like, this was a card that my buddy and I really went back and forth on, whether or not it belonged in the list. And this was kind of my argument, is like, yes, Secret Box is not make or break for Grimsnarl and Gardevoir, but it does slow them down quite a bit. Like, they can't have that like big explosive turn where they like really just kind of get back into the game. Right, these kinds of things. So I was like, if we can, like, it doesn't have to happen, but if we can get Genesect into play against Grimsnarl and Gardevoir, it's gonna slow them down a bit, and we might be able to even like get it would add value to Iron Hands, basically, was my argument. Is like, they're going to have more Iron Hands liabilities and less of an early way of dealing with Iron Hands without the Secret Box. So he conceded. He's like, okay, we'll run the Genesect. And I honestly, I wouldn't take it out at this point. I think it's a very strong card in the current meta, especially with Gardevoir and Grimsnarl still being kind of the monsters that they are. So I would definitely leave it in the deck for now. But like I said, think of a way to get maybe a Night Stretcher in. Although the Night Stretcher, like, it comes up every now and then. It's definitely not like even an every other game type of thing. But GG's. Okay. So let's see. I think what I really want here is an Arven. Let's see if we don't just hit one. Okie dokie. We could Crispin, like Ultra Ball for Miraidon, get Joltik, Crispin, and Genesect, and all that, but I would prefer to get a rescue board onto the Genesect. So I was kind of hoping we had that kind of business ready to go, and we did. Let's see. Oh, 3 lightning. Prize 2 lightning. Okay, that's not the end of the world. Okie dokie. Happy with that. Let's get this here. Get Miraidon. Good. And then get Joltik in hands. Yeah, we'll slap down a Pikachu. With this version of the deck, Pikachu's not as valuable because we don't have Vitality Band. We don't have... What's the other word I'm looking for? Gravity Mountain. Shoot. I couldn't think. So, you know, we're not able to take out a Gardevoir with a Pikachu with this build. Which is kind of painful, kind of not. It just kind of is what it is, to be honest. Let's do a lightning to each. Since we're prized a couple lightning, we'll just get that on the Pikachu right away. And they attached past. That's a bit rough for them. See if they're still here. Okay, they got the Arvando going at least. I was looking for something to fidget with. So yeah, the Gardevoir really feels kind of 50-50. It depends on how quickly they can get set up. If they're able to get established right off the rip, it becomes a much more difficult matchup. If we are able to get going and take like 4 prize cards before they really get swinging, the matchup is much more us favored. So it really depends on how quickly they can get a Gardevoir and how quickly they can get enough energy into the discard to get a Drifloon to knock out the Iron Hands. Those are kind of the big key considerations for the Gardevoir player. Let's just... I want to take out the monkey. I don't need to boss here, so let's just Crispin. We'll get a metal and a grass. Yep. We'll get the grass into hand. Get the metal onto Pikachu. And then we'll get a lightning onto Iron Hands. And we'll take out a monkey. So the Pikachu in this matchup is really just a good attacker into like Pheasantipity or Mew. Those kinds of things. So like I was saying, not as high value as if you're running Vitality Band or Gravity Mountain. But if you fall behind, the Defiance Band Pikachu is not a bad play either. And that's actually worth considering as well. But I think I just wanted to run the NAIC list, and I probably talked about it in the intro, but the Defiance Band is really there for the Raging Bolt matchup. But I wasn't really able to get a lot of value out of it, even in the Raging Bolt matchup. So I think I would definitely switch it for Vitality Band at this point, or even a future booster, depending on how popular decks like Mewtwo and other things with a lot of like 130, 140 health Pokemon get. Then I would definitely start looking at Future Booster again. But as of right now, with running Switch, Prime Catcher, Latias, you don't really need the retreat, and then the plus 20 doesn't come up super often. So I'm not saying that Future Booster is a bad card. Like, you can absolutely run it in your list, and I think you'll be fine. It doesn't feel as... This deck just has such tight space requirements that it just doesn't feel as impactful as some of the other tool cards right now. So I would still choose Vitality Band over Future Booster. But your matchups may vary, especially depending on what your local scene's got going on. Maybe you got 3 people hard dedicated to Mewtwo, so you're like, I gotta run the Future Booster. I don't have a choice, which is fine, and that's something that you should definitely work with. You're gonna confuse me, aren't you? You're a monster. All right, do we go for the flip? Oh, no. We don't go for the flip. We get Latias. We retreat into Pikachu, and we boss up the hurt Gardevoir. Easy clap. Okay. Nice. So we can attach this here. Get rid of Pikachu, and we're not going to need a Psychic in this matchup. Oh, grab the Latios. I'll change this art. That's just the art that I took to NAIC, but I'll change it back to default for you guys when I post the list, if I remember. And then let's just retreat here. Let's boss up a Guardy. We got him. Okay, so now hopefully we can just close out the game with Iron Hands. I mean, if they're playing super smart, they'll just boss up the Iron Hands and take care of them instead. But they might not have that luxury boss counter catcher. Although we might see Gardevoirs with boss more often now that Isaiah Bradner one with a boss in his list. Ooh, that Dark Tame just a turn too late, didn't it? That's unfortunate. They have any energy? No, I think, yeah. Nope. I don't see this going very well. Not unless they got something super cool in that old hand of theirs. But see, once again, a Guardy matchup where we are stopping a comeback, stopping a secret box comeback. So, I'm just saying, I like the Genesect. That's about it. Nothing too, nothing much more deep than that. I think it's a good card. I like it in this list a lot. Well, good game, good game, good game. So it's a really strong list. This is like kind of how NAIC went for me, where I was just like able to just run the plays the way the list was meant to run the plays, and it just kept working for me until I got to day 2. So give it a go, see how you like it. Let me know what you think. Let me know what cards you're running, changes you've made to your 60. I'd love to talk Joltik Box strategy in the comments, so leave a comment down below. If you're not subscribed and you liked this video, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I mean, I'm assuming you liked it, unless you just like kind of fell asleep. You've made it all the way to the end. So if you made it all the way to the end and you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe for me. All right. And yeah, we'll catch you in the next one.